2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Put your glad rags on, join me, huh? We'll have some fun when the clock strikes 1. We're gonna rock.
Welcome to Celebrity Talk. I'm in Branson, Missouri at the beautiful home of Dick Richards, original drummer for the Comets, and on my right is Joey Ambrose, the original sax player for the Comets. They're performing down here in Branson, Missouri for the last 4 or 5 years, is it?
Well, it's our 5th year.
5th year?
Yeah, well, it's our 2nd year at Andy Williams' Moon River Theater, and then we put in 3 years at Dick Clark's
American
theater.
Bandstand.
Yeah.
We usually start out by asking everybody a little bit of their background, like where they're from, and where you grew up, and what your inspiration was, and who your idol was at getting started in the business. So,
well, my inspiration was that when I was a kid, I was more interested in sports. And I was from Upper Darby. I lived in Upper Darby and went to Upper Darby Junior High School and the high school, played football there. And I ended up if you notice this hat, it's called Westchester State University, but it was the State Teachers College. And right after the war in 1946, I entered there and took up physical education.
okay.
And but the one that really got me into the music was my father, who was blind. His name was Luigi Bocelli. He was a great tenor.
I heard they referred to him as the Blind Caruso.
Blind Caruso, yes, and he was truly so. He said to me, he says, "Why don't you go into music?" And I started to put 2 and 2 together because I know my father. I think my father wants me start studying music so that we would work together, stay with him. But then he broke me in with his concerts, and we would go out and do things up in the Poconos, those after dinner concerts and everything. It was great. From that, I put one of his artists. We put a little duo together. I just little work weekends. And that's where I was working at the Broom Hall with a fellow, and he was partially blind. We played piano, did impressions. Stan Lee, and we had a little group called Richards and Lee.
Richards and Lee, yeah.
And that's where I met Haley. Haley was making rounds of one-nighters at different spots and working on a percentage, and that's where I met him in Collingdale.
Okay. And
There you go.
And you grew up in Darby, was it?
Upper Darby.
Upper Darby.
Yeah,
That's where you originally.
but I married a girl. My wife was from Darby.
Oh, your wife's from Darby.
Yeah, Betty. Yeah.
And
Yes, sir.
And you were from
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Germantown.
Germantown.
Yep. I went to Germantown High School, and my parents moved out to the Northeast, and then pretty much from the time I was 15, I grew up at the Northeast, Philadelphia.
And what got you started in music?
Well, I started playing saxophone when I was 12 years old.
And was there anyone in particular that
The band.
your idol?
Oh, I love Benny Goodman. I like the jazz guys. I like Stan Kenton. I was the only guy listening to Stan Kenton when they were 12 years old. Nobody listened to, especially at my age. Yeah, I like that.
How did you and Dick meet? You guys
Well,
been
Dick
friends?
and I, we've been buddies since when we joined the Haley Comets. I joined the band about a month after Dick had joined the band. Dick was hired in September, I think it was, or August, sometime of 1953, and I came with the band in October of '53.
We were comrades in common because the band was really a Western swing band at that time.
Right. Yeah.
And we always had the argument with the guys about the country music, and Joey and I we had our stand.
Well, when I first joined the band, it wasn't a band that I really wanted to be with. But I was just out of school. I was 18, looking for a gig, and I heard that Haley had been looking for. He was a local bar band in Philadelphia at that time. He was looking for a saxophone player to join his band. He didn't have saxophone before. He didn't have drums before. Dick was the first drummer to play really with him, and so we're new guys with
So
new experimenting.
he was basically just strings and piano, and there was no horns.
It was hillbilly, man.
Yeah, right,
That's what it was.
music,
It was country music, and with the steel guitar, accordion, a bass, upright bass, and Bill playing his rhythm guitar. You're not going to get rock and roll out of that.
Right,
no way. And so when we joined the band, then you add drums, then you add saxophone. That whole thing turned around. It changed around the thing, and they started playing differently too.
Something, Joe. At that time, no one knew what rock and roll was. It wasn't really tagged until after we did Rock Around the Clock, and the song went national. They finally gave it a name because when Rock Around the Clock came out, it was called a foxtrot.
We were a hot band at the time. When Dick and I joined the band, Bill had already had a song called "Crazy Man Crazy," and that hit like 34 on the Billboard charts. So it was like a semi-hit, and that really got Bill, where people started to know who he was and the Comets.
Yeah.
And when we went with Decca Records, Milt Gabler was the engineer for Decca Records at that time, and he was a almost a genius when it came to doing what he did. And we recorded we recorded Shake, Rattle, and Roll.
Okay, yeah.
That was our first record.
But at the time, he thought he was promoting 13 Women. And,
we already had Shake, Rattle, and Roll. See?
And Rock Around the Clock almost never came about. I mean, it was...
No, we went into the studio that day to record Rock Around the Clock, we thought. And as soon as we got there a little late, because we got stuck on a barge in the, what do you call that, river? The ferry up there. So we were...
So it was the Chester Ferry?
The Chester Ferry, yeah.
We were late getting to the session. So when we got to the session, we already had Shake, Rattle, and Roll in that by that time. And that was her hit,
No, it wasn't. Absolutely. The Rock Around the Clock was the first record we did with you, absolutely. Yeah, I don't. And all of a sudden, when it was released, nothing happened,
Right.
And then we came back and we did Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and that was right up into the top 10. So that really made us a national name.
What happened was, when we got to the session for Rock Around the Clock, the Milt Gabler had this song that he wanted us to record called 13 Women and Only One Man in Town. And he said, this is the one I want you to record. So we never heard it before. We had rehearsed the night before Rock Around the Clock in Bill's basement, but we never heard 13 Women. So, this is a new song to us. So by the time we got an arrangement to it, and Milt got his sound the way it was supposed to be, it was a 3-hour session, and we took up 2.5 of that, 2.5 hours of the session. So we only had like 25 minutes left to do Rock Around the Clock. And Mr. Gabler said, go ahead and do that rock thing. Go ahead, like a throwaway. Yeah, like it was, yeah, go ahead and do that rock thing. So we said, okay. So we did it twice.
Right.
And we caught a groove on it. And 2 takes. We caught a groove, guys know what that means. And it was happening for us. And that's all it took. And that was the end of it. And it laid in the can, what they say. It didn't do anything right away.
Right.
It stayed there for about a year. It really started a whole new thing in music. It really did.
Funny. During at the end of the show, when we do Rock Around the Clock, all those kids are old people now, sitting out in our audiences, and they're getting up doing those dances and everything.
Yeah, I've seen them at the shows, getting them up. It's got a beat and a sound that just, gets your feet tapping and your adrenaline going.
And you know what? It's very happy.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very happy thing.
It's a super record. The record, Danny Citron was the guitar player on there.
Right.
He's from South Philadelphia. Wonderful guitar player. And too bad he passed on very early in his life.
Rock Around the Clock became the soundtrack for Blackboard Jungle.
Right.
And years later, it also became the soundtrack for Happy Days.
Happy Days, yeah.
Yeah, and then...
it was in over 100 movies.
Was it really?
Absolutely. Over 100 movies, this thing, over the years.
#1 song throughout the world. That's very few songs have been #1 in the world, you know.
Right.
And that was #1 in England, Europe, all over Europe, every place we go. It was #1 in the world.
I've heard it used in a lot of other instances in movies, what they call, I think, needle drop. Like you'll hear it in the background of a movie.
Oh, it's a classic, you know.
Oh, yeah. It's...
And so we've been fortunate because Shake, Rattle, and Roll it's a classic,
Yeah.
you know. See You Later, Alligator. All these, 3 of those songs that really have become almost like what they say classics. Right. Yeah. And we're still playing them every day.
Not only us, but I mean the radio stations and the other groups are still playing them.
Yeah.
You know, because Bill Haley's group at that time was a versatile group, you know. Marshall Lytle, who was our bass player, he sang. Dick sang, and I played the saxophone. And, you know, we had a nice entertainment.
Billy sang too?
Yeah.
And Johnny played the keyboard and accordion.
Accordion.
Yeah.
And
Billy Williamson was a wonderful steel guitarist, and Bill played his guitar, never a lead guitar player. Yeah. And we had Danny Cedrone on the recordings. Yeah. Can't leave out Danny Cedrone. He was wonderful. And then later on came Franny Beecher.
Right. When you, like going back to the early days when you were playing as a teenager, did you ever envision 50 years later you'd still
no, nobody knows that. Nobody could tell you that. And you would never dream that, you know. Because I was a kid out of high school, and that's just 18 when I joined Bill Haley, looking for a gig, and I had no idea what was going to happen.
What's really strange is 50 years later, when everybody else is looking to retire, you guys are looking to keep on working. I mean, here's Dick, 86 years young. And
I'm 76.
You're 76, the youngest of the group.
And we're over here at Andy Williams Moon River Theater. It's our 2nd year, like we said before, and it's a great theater. The people in there are just wonderful, and we have a wonderful audience every day. We work here 6 days a week. We're off on Sunday, and it's just a great gig, you know, and we hope to be in Branson for a long time after this.
It's a great show. I've seen it many times, and it never gets too old for me. So is there anything else you fellows would like to add to this?
Well, we want to say that being with Bill Haley and the Comets was a real honor and a pleasure to play with Bill. We love Bill, and it's too bad he's gone. He's died in 1981, and we did try to keep his music alive, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. And we owe a lot to Bill Haley and all the other guys in the band at the time, and we just want to say to our fans out there, that, you know, it's been an honor playing for you guys, and we want to continue rocking and rolling. That's all we're going to say.
Well, I want to thank you for your time and
Thank you
for spending the time with us in the interview. And
I just want to say touche to that remark.
he also does stand-up comedy on his part. Look for the real deal, and these two fellows are the real deal. They are the original Bill Haley's Comets. And I'm proud to say, this one's my cousin.
When I look at you, I tell you don't love me no more. I believe you're doing me wrong, and now I know. I believe you're doing me wrong, and now I know. Well, the harder I work, the faster my money goes. I said, shake, rattle, and roll. Shake, rattle, and roll. Shake, rattle, and roll. I said, shake, rattle, and roll. Well, you never do nothing to save your doggone soul.